Have you ever wondered what life was like for the Egyptian pharaohs? Their lavish palaces, grand monuments, and divine status have captivated our imaginations for centuries. But did you know that some things they considered normal would be considered weird or even taboo in today's world? From fake beards to sadistic guilt trips, the pharaohs had their fair share of eccentricities. So get ready to travel back in time as we uncover the strange and fascinating world of the Egyptian pharaohs. You won't want to miss a moment of this intriguing journey. In order to avoid the risks and impropriety of walking, the pharaoh seeks transportation for his daily errands after tending to his palace responsibilities. He can choose between a traditional horse-drawn chariot and a more comfortable and straightforward royal litter, which is his preferred mode for local tasks. While on these errands, the pharaoh takes tours of the city and inspects various construction sites to foster the loyalty of his people. Despite his opulent lifestyle, the pharaoh is still vulnerable to injury or illness, as modern medicine is not available and even a minor injury can prove fatal. In an attempt to avoid civil war without relinquishing the throne, the king sends Amasis to negotiate with the mutineers. However, this proves to be a mistake, as Amasis is a corrupt and opportunistic politician who joins the mutineers upon realizing their superior position. He disregards the pharaoh's negotiation terms and insults him through his messenger. Despite seizing the throne by force, Amasis implemented significant reforms, defeating and killing Apries on the battlefield. However, he gave Apries a proper royal funeral and married his daughter to legitimize his claim to the throne. Despite this, he could never forgive himself for betraying his pharaoh and resorted to sadistic methods to guilt himself. He would visit oracles throughout the country to ask if he was innocent or guilty, but inevitably, they proclaimed him innocent to avoid angering him. Nevertheless, he would call them frauds and have them killed, believing that if they truly spoke to the gods, they would know of his treason. Amasis had a habit of stealing from his allies and then denying their ownership of the stolen property. Ramses II was known for his sexual prowess, and many believed that his longevity and fertility were divine signs. Despite a tumultuous time where pharaohs were frequently assassinated, Ramses II lived to be 91 years old, remaining active in the royal court and on his royal bed. He erected numerous statues and monuments, and fathered over 100 children, marrying at least 9 wives and even some of his daughters, including his firstborn and possibly his sister. One of the most notable military leaders in Egyptian history had a penchant for commemorating his requests by erecting monuments and engraving them with accounts of the battles and his personal triumphs. He was known for boasting about his victories and for rating his defeated enemies based on their performance on the battlefield. If the rival army put up a fierce fight, he would have a picture of male genitalia engraved on the monument, and if they were easily defeated, he would have female genitalia engraved instead. This behavior was similar to that of a sore loser in online gaming. The use of genitalia engravings was not out of place in Egyptian culture, which was known for its liberal attitudes towards sensuality and sexuality. Unlike their Greek counterparts, the Egyptians treated both genders equally and were open-minded about lovemaking. For instance, during the annual Min's feast, the pharaoh and the general public performed a holy rite to ensure a good harvest and prosperity. This involved offering blessings to the river, a ceremony that recreated the gift given by Atum to nourish the Nile. In ancient Egypt, pharaohs were often depicted with long, narrow, and artificial-looking chin beards in carvings and sculptures. However, this description was not an accurate representation of their actual appearance. Many pharaohs were clean-shaven and bald, as they preferred to prevent lice and keep cool in the hot desert climate. The reason for the depiction of beards was for the sake of divinity, as the ability to grow a healthy, fancy-looking beard was considered a sign of divinity. Pharaohs wanted to resemble the gods, and thus they fashioned their beards to resemble the gods' facial hair. While beards were a sign of masculinity in ancient Egypt, the term pharaoh was more of a gender-neutral term, despite its literal translation to king in English. The term pharaoh originally referred to the king's palace, and it only became a term for the ruler around 1450 BC. While most pharaohs were male, Egypt did have a handful of female rulers who were also called pharaohs, including Hatshepsut, who had to fight against criticism for her gender to become and retain the throne during her reign. Hatshepsut was responsible for building some of the greatest architectural wonders of ancient Egypt. However, she was insecure about her femininity and commanded every artist in Egypt to depict her with a beard. Historians believe that she may have even worn a fake beard in real life. Her son was more insecure than her and almost completely erased her from history. Today, every available carving or sculpture of her shows her with a full beard and muscular arms, either because she was insecure about her position as pharaoh or angry that she was born a woman. The death of the pharaoh was accompanied by a significant ritual involving the use of fake beards. The portrayal of a pharaoh in the afterlife was modeled after Osiris, the god of death and the afterlife, and his beard was emulated in the description of the deceased. The false beards were frequently placed over the pharaoh's coffins, which often featured illustrations of their faces. Akhenaten's reign was a time of great change in ancient Egypt. He converted the polytheistic religion of Egypt to a monotheistic one centered around the sun god Aten, and his rule caused major upheaval in the social structure. To move his capital to the newly constructed city of Amarna, Akhenaten forcibly relocated 20,000 people and expected them to work tirelessly day and night to complete the city. The lack of infrastructure resulted in poor living conditions, with workers often having little to eat and insufficient shelter. Those who disobeyed were subjected to brutal punishment, including repeated stabbing. Archaeological evidence suggests that at least 2/3 of the laborers suffered broken bones, and nearly a third suffered broken backs. Despite his efforts, Akhenaten died before the city could be completed, and his attempts at the building were ultimately destroyed and his name erased from history. The ancient Egyptians were a civilization that were deeply concerned with the afterlife, and they believed in preparing for the journey after death. However, not everyone in their long history shared this fascination. One such person was Menkaure, the king of Egypt in the 26th century BC. When an oracle predicted that he had only 6 years left to live, Menkaure was filled with dread at the prospect of his impending death. Rather than accepting his fate and preparing for the afterlife like most Egyptians of his time, Menkaure decided that he wanted to live forever. He believed that if he could stop time from moving, the 6 years would never pass, and he would stay alive indefinitely. Menkaure came up with a bizarre and futile plan to achieve his goal. He decided that if he could stop the night from passing, time would stop progressing. Menkaure's desperate attempt to postpone his fate involved lighting numerous lamps every night and convincing himself that daylight still lingered. He also abandoned the idea of sleep, believing that it made the time go by faster. Instead, he indulged in endless drinking and revelry, hoping to stave off the inevitable. Tragically, his reckless behavior only expedited his downfall, ignoring his body's need for rest and consuming copious amounts of alcohol each night. Menkaure's health declined rapidly, and he passed away before his 6 years were up. Menkaure's story serves as a warning about the uselessness of attempting to outsmart mortality. Although death is an intrinsic aspect of existence, it is also an inescapable one. Instead of resisting it, we should concentrate on seizing the moment and embracing life to its fullest potential. As we come to the end of our journey through the world of Egyptian pharaohs, we hope you've enjoyed learning about the strange and fascinating customs that were once considered normal. From the luxurious lifestyles of the pharaohs to their bizarre attempts to cheat death, their legacy has left a lasting impact on history. As we reflect on their world, we can see that while some things have changed over the centuries, many of our own behaviors and beliefs are still influenced by the ancient Egyptians. From our fascination with the afterlife to our enduring love for architecture and art, the legacy of the pharaohs continues to inspire and captivate us. We hope that you've learned something new and that you were entertained along the way. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next one.